My grandkids came over yesterday. I have never seen such beautiful dyed eggs ever. They had jewels. I can't open these eggs. They're so beautiful. So we used to just, yeah. Oh, these are sparklies and these jewels all around the egg. And I said, I can't open these. Anyway, I hope you are having a nice Easter weekend. I'm going to start with a talk this morning about Aries and Easter and resurrection, and then we'll have our meditation. Okay. I don't know who didn't turn their iPad off. Turn the cell phone off. Okay, first of all, Easter Sunday. Some of you may not know this, that Easter Sunday is always established as the first Sunday following the full moon that follows the vernal equinox. I think Christians would be real surprised to know that. I was when I first heard about it, but that's how it's established. That's why it changes, every year. When we celebrate the Aries full moon, along with Easter, the combination of both Easter and the full moon gives us a really, really great opportunity to regenerate ourselves and to undergo resurrection. So really, really think about this, the energies that we are in now. I mean, the full moon was yesterday morning at 5-something Mountain Standard Time. But we're still well within that range. I guess it was at 5:07 within that time frame. And now with Easter here, don't let it pass you by. Don't become so immersed in dying Easter eggs with little jewels on that we become so buried, in our day-to-day mundane life that we don't take a moment for meditation or prayer or reflection, or to really utilize these energies in a way that we can be born again, which is being resurrected. Most of us here at some point in the life of our soul made a decision to travel the path of initiation. This is a path of expanded consciousness. There are many books written about initiation. Torquem Saradarian has written many books about initiation and really brings in the detail of what initiation is, what it is not, where you are, where you want to be. If you want to be here or there, it gives almost a litany of what we can do to really create an environment that is most conducive to taking these initiations. Some of you may know that there are also sub-initiations. There are basically 9 initiations, 7 which we take in incarnation on this planet, and 7 doesn't seem like very much. You just walk right through it, just like you do through school. But it takes many incarnations. But as we go through sub-initiations, our life becomes more intense. And as our life becomes more intense, we realize that we are traveling this path at lightning break speed. And the reason for this is that we are really paying off the debt of karma for many, many incarnations, but also the teaching explains that we live 3 to 4 lifetimes in one life. Now, that's by choice. It's not by imposition or that God did this to us. This was at that moment of decision that we decided to travel this very progressive path to expand our consciousness. It is a most difficult but spiritually rewarding experience for the soul. Rewarding because it places us on the lightning path of the evolutionary path. It gives our soul an opportunity to better serve So service for the initiate becomes sacrificial service. It's no longer, if I do this for you, you're going to have to do that for me. So sacrificial service is a very different level of consciousness. It is the consciousness of the soul. Actually, it is also the consciousness of the ashram. It is the consciousness of God if you want to go, out into the universe. So let your imagination soar a little bit to think about what sacrificial service can mean to you. And you can start as a parent, you can start as a grandparent, you can start as a group to really observe, first of all, to observe what the difference is between service and sacrificial service. They're very, very different. I think service begins with good intention and right motive, but usually convolutes itself when people don't pay you back for what you have done. That kind of service, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so sacrificial service is the expectation I'm receiving nothing in reward except to help this person or this family or this group or this country to evolve, to progress, to move ahead. It is for me to give, not to receive. Disciples on this path, let's call disciples the disciple-initiate, okay? Disciple initiates on this path are those who will make use of these energies as a mean to graduate to the next and next levels of consciousness until it puts them in conscious contact with their solar angel, next the spiritual triad and the ashram, the master, and also different stations of the cosmic magnet. Now, until you have these kind of experiences, for some this is just words on paper that I've read before and I'm just going to gloss over it. But once it becomes that real experience, for example, once you hear the call to service, you never forget it. You know, it is a literal call. It's not fabrication. It's not imagination. It's one day you're going to hear words in your ear, which represents the call to service, the call to sacrificial service. This puts us on the path of initiation. As we go through these different incarnations of intense striving and intense sacrificial service, we eventually discover the cosmic magnet. The cosmic magnet is like the heart of the universe. There is a specific location for the cosmic magnet, which I won't go into today, but you can read in, actually one of the books that I wrote and published talks about the location of the cosmic magnet, where it is, how you can experience it, how you feel it. What I didn't write and what I didn't put in this book is that there are different stations of the cosmic magnet. And these stations relate to the degree of initiation, including sub-initiations that you have taken. So with each progressive stage, the disciple initiate will be able to surpass his or her present level of consciousness and penetrate into the deeper mysteries of life. So let us think, in a very realistic, practical way, that if we're on a path that is spiritual, that is intense, the priority for us must be sacrificial service. But I can tell you, you're going to get burned out if that sacrificial service is not given to you through intuition, through need. And you must find a way to recharge your energy, recharge your batteries. Engaging in true, honest, sacrificial service takes a lot of psychic energy. So this is why we talk so much about meditation. It is in true meditation, active meditation, seed thought meditation, you begin to clean out your filter system, meaning cleaning out the karma of past incarnations, ancient karma of the personality, we could say. And when we unclog that filter system, we then bring in more psychic energy, more life-giving energy. So there's a whole program that a disciple initiate is born with when they come into this life, where they will go through a recapitulation period, which to me is like preparation to the next sub-initiation or next major initiation for sacrificial service, for expansion of consciousness. Life is given to us so that we can strive toward perfection. Imagine knowing that. Essentially, this is what life is all about. We can look at ourselves today and ask, where do I need to strive? Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And then ask ourselves, we watched a DVD during conference by Torkim in which he was talking about the essentials of the teaching. So now we're all talking about what is the most essential. I'm getting emails from co-workers that were at the conference. Is this the most essential? Would you consider this the most essential? I can't answer that question. But one thing I could say is when you're engaged in doing the most essential, it's not so much the action you are taking, but the intent and motive behind the action. So you can think about that. We can ask ourselves, what is the most essential at this time in my life by or through which to strive? How can I find the most essential and strive in the boat of the most essential in order to make myself more beautiful? Physically beautiful, emotionally beautiful, mentally beautiful. Perhaps you will decide to strive to make your emotions clean and shining with pure feelings. Mentally, we all want to be filled with illumination. Spiritually, we want to be fiery, filled with spirit. To be fiery means that we no longer are controlled by our lower nature. It means we are now functioning in the higher mind. It means that we are striving to fuse our unfolding human soul with the fire of the chalice and to release ourselves from the mistakes of lifetimes and even in this life. That we have moved from the clockwise wheel to the counterclockwise wheel of the zodiac and are now carefully and with spiritual discipline, welcoming the opportunity to pay off our ancient debts in order to be of greater service to the hierarchy and to the plan of humanity. This means that we must make the most of our time here on earth, that we no longer are subjected to the wills of those around us. And if you carefully observe humanity basically functions by the imposition of others. Watch this carefully. The imposition of the media, for example, the imposition of the fears of others. And pretty soon we have this whole basket of imposition of will by others that then control and direct our life. So the disciple initiate is not like that. He or she is no longer subjected to the imposition of will of those around and about us. Nor do we think or speak and move and choose our action and life by the impositions of others. Even if it is a major religion or a world-renowned pastor or rabbi or the Pope. We are now living a life through direct knowledge. Direct knowledge. So we don't need somebody to put a little ring in our nose and to pull us around. Do this, do that. Don't do this. Don't think this way. You're a bad person. You know, now we're living our potential. We're living the potential of beauty and goodness and righteousness and joy and freedom and striving and sacrificial service, all which are imbued with the plan of our soul. So see, I really believe this. I can see the difference in my life when I'm on that path and when I'm following the path of imposition. It's very different when you are living a path of the disciple initiate, of the unfolding human soul. There is a joy that no one can kill. There is a sense of direction that no one can divert you from. There is the knowledge of superhuman beings, the knowledge of the higher ashram, the knowledge of the cosmic magnet. So it doesn't make any difference if your knowledge never reaches the top 10 bestsellers of the New York Times. See, they're not there yet. We already have the top 10 sellers. Yeah, we do. So do not allow others to use you for their own advantage. We must learn to further perfect our ability to be spiritually and esoterically discriminating. Discriminating so we can examine our inner and our higher wills in such a way that we can spiritually advance. Now, that may sound self-centered, so that we can personally, spiritually advance. But people who are spiritually advanced become examples for humanity, become examples for us. We all have such examples. Not many, but all we need is one. When we discriminate to the point that we can examine our inner and higher wills, this is actually a very advanced stage of consciousness. With observation and spiritual discipline, we soon learn how to detach from those inner and outer influences, all which represent, or perhaps symbolically, sometimes literally, the ancient past of the personality life. Spiritual striving during each full moon, especially the 3 high spiritual festivals of Aries and Taurus and Gemini, we learn how to be obedient to the higher self. See, not to the imposing wills of others, but to the higher self. But you have to have a bridge built to get there. Then the teacher and the master. It is through this obedience our lives finally become more fulfilling and free. So what is discrimination? Mentally, it is the ability to choose the right time, the right thing, and the right direction. That's what discrimination means mentally. That we never go against these 7 principles of our tradition, which is beauty and goodness and justice and joy and freedom and striving and sacrificial service. It is the ability to know what will be useful to the purpose of our soul. The soul of our family, the soul of our country, and the soul of the universe, the cosmic magnet. And to know which things are useless, which things are harmful for ourselves and for others. It means that we refuse to make any choice that will be destructive to our well-being. See, that's the most essential, isn't it? To look at, say, this action I'm taking. Is this the most essential? It is if it works for the well-being of ourselves and others, the well-being of our family or group. Here's a story. Why did I visit the magic monastery? Well, I'm a monk myself, and the strangest thing happened in my monastery. We had a visit from the Buddha. We prepared for it and gave him a very warm, solemn welcome. He stayed overnight, but he slipped away very early the next morning. When the monks woke up, they found graffiti all over the cloistered walls. Imagine. And you know what he wrote? One word: trivia, 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 all over the place. Well, we were in a rage. But then when I quieted down, I looked about and realized, yes, this is true. So much of what I saw was trivia, and most of what I heard was trivia. But what is worse, when I closed my eyes, all inside was trivia. For several weeks, this was my experience, and my very efforts to rectify it just made it worse. I left my monastery and headed for the magic monastery. The brothers showed me around. First, the Hall of Laughter. Everything fed the flame of laughter, big things and small, sacred, solemn, inconsequential. Only laughter there. Next, the room of sorrow, the very essence of bitter tears, those of the bereaved mother, the lonely, the depressed. Only sorrows here. Now the hall of words, words upon words, spoken and written. Alone, they must have had some sense, but altogether, total confusion. He said, I cried out, stop, stop. But I was only adding words to words. Next, the hall of silence. Here, there is no time. He took me finally to the hall of treasures. Take anything you want, he whispered. The heart of Christ, the smile of a Buddha, the wisdom of Solomon, the compassion of Mary. What to take? I chose the heart of Christ, and with it I'm heading back now to my monastery. What would you pick? So discrimination is an ever-evolving process. As you increase in light, your discrimination becomes increasingly or more and more bright. Discrimination is not just about choice. It is about being sensitive to the guidance of your heart. In Sanskrit, discrimination is called buddhi. Discrimination is spiritual insight, intuitive perception, penetrative insight into the causes of things, of higher and higher levels of consciousness. So discrimination is a compass of the disciple initiate who is traveling the path of initiation. If we strive, and then we will not only surpass the present conditions of our life, but we will be living the purpose of our life. Too many times we become absorbed in a thinking that says, this is the life. This is the only life there is, so let's eat and be merry. Actually, this life is just a moment in the eternal journey, a moment out of eternity. This life is a preparatory life, a life that prepares us for our future glory. It is a life that gives us opportunities to make ourselves better and better, more perfect. We must make the most of it now. During the Aries full moon, the first ray energy is given to us. The first ray energy is a tremendous energy given to humanity to overcome its limitations. This is what resurrection is. It is an ever-progressing victory over our limitations and our mistakes. This is resurrection. It is an ever-progressing, advancing victory over our limitations. So we can look at what we consider our limitations, at least what is available to us to see now. And take a look at these limitations and feel the joy that we have right now at this time with the full moon of Aries energy and the energy of Easter and resurrection. Say, I don't have to live within these limitations any longer. And really assess what is the most essential right now, physical, emotional, mentally, spiritually, for us. Limitations are opportunities to release our own resources and powers, our spiritual resources, to evoke a power from the core of our being, to overcome our limitations. So through our efforts, through our striving, we resurrect that glory that is living within each of us, the unfolding human soul. Remember, a spiritual leader is recognized as one who lives a continuous, unfolding life. Now we understand why. One of the reasons is to release that glorious life that is within. When this glory is resurrected, that one, the one that is within us, the one that is buried in matter, in anger, in darkness, in emotions, in battles, when it is resurrected, it is the glorious one. He conquers the life. That is life. So we forget why we are here. And when we forget why we are here, we lose our path. We have lost our path. When I was younger, I really enjoyed riding horses. Even though I was an equestrian rider, I really enjoyed the challenge of riding stubborn horses. In fact, the more ornery the horse was, the more I enjoyed riding him. Fool that I was. I loved to test my courage. So one day I saddled a horse that was considered to be very dangerous. The stable hand warned me to be careful of this horse, that he was very dangerous and very wild. He hadn't been ridden for several years. Well, I had observed the horse for several months. Each day I would visit the stables, I would bring him some carrots or a sugar cube, and I thought he was ready for me. I was about 18. I climbed on the horse thinking that I could tame him with my love. The minute I climbed on his back, he started to run crazy. He reared up several times, and then because he couldn't shake me off his back, he stretched out into a full gallop, running blindly and wildly. He didn't know where he was going. He had lost all his senses. And a fence eventually stopped us both. So this is like our lives. We start running crazy, wildly after this thing and that, trying to satisfy our blind urges and drives, and sometimes just running away from all those crazy thoughts, in our mind, but without direction and without purpose. There's only one direction. Christ demonstrated in a very beautiful way that resurrection is victory over our limitations and our faults. So how are we going to resurrect ourselves? Can it be done? Well, of course. Why? Because the resurrected one, the glorious one, is within each of us. And it is already resurrected. It is there, but we must actualize what is already there. We must not doubt that we can be a resurrected human being. See, this is what, going back a little ways to imposition, this is what people try to make us think, that if they're loud, if they have a loud voice and a big position in life and a lot of money and power. See, they fool us. This is what illusion is. And they begin to impose themselves upon us. If you go into large churches that millions and millions and millions of dollars have been spent on, jewels all over the place, then surely the representative of that building is who we should follow. But those millions of dollars spent in that temple, and the jewels in that temple are to reflect what's inside of us. They're not the doctrines and I'm going to get myself in trouble, so I better back off a little bit. But the idea is that these beautiful edifices are to remind ourselves of our own beauty, not to follow the imposition of wills coming from those who are not yet resurrected, who are not yet functioning in the light of their higher self. And you know who that is, because who that is interested in our soul as a soul of humanity. Not as an individual human being, but as a soul of humanity. They care about humanity, not about themselves. Sacrificial service. Right? What are the steps toward resurrection? Well, we've already talked a lot about discrimination. Detachment is another. We should not attach ourselves to worldly objects. We know this. The teaching tells us this. But have we been successful in our detachment? Use what you have wisely for the good. Resurrect yourself from your attachments. Don't attach to world objects. If you identify with them, you're going to take them with you to your next life, while you are trying to climb to the higher worlds. Our desires, we will take our desires with us. See how that works? We're told you can't take it with you. Well, that phrase obviously is talking about worldly goods. It doesn't talk about don't take your desires with you. It doesn't talk about cleaning out the diskettes of our physical, etheric, emotional, mental bodies, so that when we come back in the next lifetime, we will come back pure and clean and no longer burdened by those many, many incarnations of karma. Nothing belongs to us. Use what you need to do your purpose. That's important to hear. Use what you need to do your purpose, and then say goodbye. You think your husband belongs to you? Your children belong to you? Your house belongs to you? When they're taken away from you, you know they don't belong to you. Do meditation every day. Don't say you don't know how to meditate or you're too busy to meditate. Find a quiet place and begin to think about the glory of creation. Take that time, as Richard was reading the poem this morning, to experience the sunrise and experience the sunset. Think how glorious you are, that you are a masterpiece, and give thanks to those who made you what you are, that have made you so precious. Don't hurt your preciousness. It's like when those grandchildren yesterday brought me 24 eggs, all hard-boiled and sparkles all over. They were so precious. They were just so precious. I just can't begin to tell you how precious it was. Don't hurt your preciousness. Have time for admiration. What do you admire? Music, art, temple dancing, the teachings, the master. I introduced a piece of music to a group of leaders Friday, and one of them was called the group worship, which most of you know. It's I love you, Lord, I love you, Lord, I love you in the stars, I love you in the planets, I love you in my heart. And a person said, oh, I don't want to think, that's so devotional, I don't want to have anything to do with it. That person lost their preciousness. And boldly I said, why are you being so disrespectful? When you see the stars, don't you love the Lord in the stars? He's lost his preciousness. When we admire great pieces of music and art and the teachings and the master, these things will resurrect us from our darkness. Don't occupy yourselves with slander and gossip. Leave it alone. Admire the beauty of the tree and the sky. Find something to admire. Whatever you admire, you increase the beauty, the energy of what is admired. I was thinking of one of the stories in Torkim's book about stories where he talks about this beautiful tree, and the tree was dying. And the leader of the tree on that piece of property of the group said, every year we're going to celebrate the beauty of this tree. And he said, this is a sacred tree. So every year at Vesak, they would decorate that tree with objects of beauty, and they would stand and dance and do a temple dance and love it and sing to it. And it became the most precious, the most beautiful tree on the whole land. So they took this ugly little tree, and just by love and beauty and respect and admiration brought that tree back to life. Admiration evokes the resurrection process. Do not hurt people. It doesn't matter if you've been hurt. It does not. Why not? Because when you've been hurt, you know you never again want to hurt somebody else. This is sacrificial service. They do not hurt people. Do not hurt them with your thoughts and actions and emotions. Anyone that hurts people builds a chain on his feet, a karmic chain. Until you pay for those you hurt, you will not be released. So don't damage others. This is resurrection. Dedicate your life to service. If you only exist for yourself, you're going to decompose. Always know that the invisible hand, ear, eye is around you. That invisible hand that uplifts us, saves us, or throws us out. The invisible eye is watching us. The invisible ear hears our thoughts and words, even our motivations. If you start living in the light and love and power of the glorious one, you're going to be victorious. So think about the omnipresent one, If you can do this, you will build the path of resurrection for yourself. Every morning when you get up, when you finish your meditation, say a little prayer to the guiding hand and say, "Come with me throughout the day," so that everything you think and do and act upon will be in the light of the guiding hand and the guiding ears and the guiding eyes. Contemplate a glorious future for yourself. Listen to yourself. Listen to others. How many people today talk about the glorious future that they are going to have? Rather, they talk about the pains and sufferings, about things that others have done to them, about their failures. Stop and think about your glorious future. Why? Because whatever you think you are in your heart, that is who you are going to be. Think how shining you're going to be, how beautiful your life is going to be, how wise you are going to be. So don't let your failures limit you. You must have a vision of perfection. Daily, for a few moments, think, I am not this body. You are stuck in this body. You are totally identified with your body. And look how the world imposes that reality upon you. You go to the doctor says, put your affairs in order. I know of a story of a young woman, well, she was in her mid-40s at the time, who went in to see the doctor. And the doctor said, put your affairs in order. You have 6 weeks to live. 30 years later, to date, she is still alive. She said she felt like the reason was because God is the only entity that has the right to diagnose when it is your time to leave the planet. And so rather than going to bed and shutting the drapes and closing the door, she went out and began to pray for people who needed healing. They had no idea that she was probably in worse shape than they were. And every day she would do something for other people, even though the doctor kept reminding her, this is it. 30 years later, she is still alive. She's in her late 70s now. So challenge yourself. Sublimate and transform your body. You can consciously leave your body, visit the planets, and come back. Every night for 2 minutes, watch the stars so you feel the affinity with cosmos. Roosevelt, every night, he would go to the balcony of the White House and look at the stars. When someone asked him why he was looking at the stars, do you know what he said? It was to renew his humility. Can you step out into the vision of infinity and see the nonsense in your life? That is resurrection. You will feel the psychic energy that is charging your whole being if you look out at the stars. You will no longer be an average person. And who wants to be average? I know I don't. I don't want my kids to be average, and I don't want my grandkids to be average. See? To be average is a wasted lifetime. So we're no longer going to be average people. We're going to conquer our limitations, our lies, and our mischievousness. Maybe take some time today and isolate yourself and think about your future life. Don't think about your faults and your errors. Just think about your future life. Let your thoughts be daily occupied with the 5 principles of beauty, goodness, righteousness, joy, and freedom, and if you have the courage, striving and sacrificial service.